This segment has been sponsored by Pro Bikes Caribe. Pro Bikes Caribe, get yours today. Before we get into today's interview, hear a little bit about the book from the author themselves.
Hi everyone, my name is Deanna Cooper Mohammed, and the name of my book is Soul Cry. It's a book of spoken word poetry and narrative essays. The intended age group could be like 15 and up. I explore the themes of faith, fear, and love in my book, and my book can be found on Amazon in Kindle, hardcover, softcover, and you can also directly get books from me. So if you are interested in getting a copy, you can follow me on Instagram at Deanna R. Cooper Mohammed, and you can send me a DM to purchase my book.
Greetings, listenership. Welcome to TLC, Tropical Literature Creatives, the podcast where we interview authors of Caribbean heritage about themselves and about their literary works. Today we have with us Deanna Cooper Mohammed, author of the book Soul Cry. Deanna, welcome to Tropical Literature Creatives.
Welcome. Thank you. It's actually Dina.
Dina.
Yes, I always get a mispronunciation, so my whole life.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, apologies for that, Dina. Welcome.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Dina, I mean, before the interview, I did some reading and you seem to be a very interesting individual. So much so that, if it is a person walks up to me and says, here's what, Kevin, who's that woman you're talking to? Oh, you mean Dina? Oh, Dina's a very interesting woman. You should get to know her. She's a certified life coach. She's a public servant. She's an aspiring counselor. She's also the CEO of an online catering service called Eden's Kiss. And not only that, she has also recently published her first work, which is something called Soul Cry. You should talk to her, man. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. And I mean, I think that's how the introduction is going to go.
Okay. Thank you.
But
Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, in terms of your book, Soul Cry, for persons who do not know about it, can you give us a bit of insight about the book? Just a little bit of crumbs now, because, we don't want persons to, just listen to the interview and just, walk away and feeling like, that they left without anything. We want persons to be able to go on and get the book. So give us some crumbs about Soul Cry.
Okay, so I have always loved writing, but I was a bit shy in terms of putting myself out there, and I decided initially the name of this book supposed to be Divine Expression because Dina means divine. And I decided to change the name because I was not settled with divine expressions. I didn't think it was intriguing. And with Soul Cry, poetry has always been my go-to to deal with difficult times in my life. So that is what took me through some of the darkest moments. And I started to write basically for myself in certain situations, but I also did it in a way that it could be relatable to persons who would be dealing with similar situations. So soul cry and soul being, your mind, your will, your emotion, it's literally my soul's cry and hoping to also inspire persons to overcome their personal limiting beliefs and to be able to do whatever their soul cries, So that is basically what the book is about. Yes, it's a book of spoken word poetry and narrative essays, but the purpose of the book is to show others that if I could get it done, even struggling with certain things at a point in my life, that it's also possible for you as well.
I mean, it sounds like an inspiring piece of work.
I tried for it to be.
Yeah, it sounds something like, if I can do it, you can do it.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. So guys, if she can do it, you can do it. Get your copy of Soul Cry. In terms of the book, how do I mean, in your previous answer, you gave some insight into some of your personal experiences and how it is that it shaped the work that you put together.
Yes.
I want to just segue a bit because when I was going through my research, your grandfather came up, and I wanted to
Yes.
find out how did his legacy shape the narratives and the poetry within Soul Cry.
My grandfather was my biggest and number one supporter. if it wasn't making sense to anybody, I know it wouldn't make sense to my grandfather. That is how close we were. So, at the point in time when my grandfather passed away, I really wanted him to be there for my passing out parade. And he died Republic Day, which was like a few weeks before my passing out parade. And I had applied to go to his funeral. I did the eulogy because everyone in the family knows how close we were. And I was denied because of COVID.
Okay.
So I decided to dedicate the book to him. So in the last thing in the book is to my patriarch, a tribute to my grandfather. So there's actually his eulogy in the book, but from that eulogy, it's not just a eulogy for having a eulogy's sake, but to also remind persons that while your loved ones are alive and with us, try your best to be there, because even though I couldn't physically be there for my grandfather's funeral, I knew what kept me grounded in that time of grief is the fact that I spent as much time as I could with him while he was alive, because there were persons who were able to physically attend the funeral who weren't there in his life. So, when someone dies and they give them all these flowers and the wreaths and the tears, they aren't there to appreciate that. So the point of having that tribute to him is to show others that we really need to value persons while they are with us.
There's a saying, give me my roses while I'm alive.
Correct.
Okay, that's understood. You used that term just now, then it kind of got my attention. You had
What's
mentioned
that?
passing out. I know that's a term that's usually used by persons, like in the service.
Yes.
Is that the case with you?
Yes, it is. I prefer not to say with service, but I am a service personnel.
Okay, no, that's
So I
totally
left it at public servant.
okay. No, I understand now. I understand now. But that's
Yes.
totally fine. But personally, I respect persons who make up our protective services because they're there not just to provide us service for service sake, but also to protect us. And thank you for that, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Well, as Soul Cry was an independently published work, I imagine that you'd have faced a number of challenges in putting it together. Can you give us some details into how it is that this book team came together from a self-published perspective?
Actually, my book isn't self-published.
Oh,
I worked with Hillcrest TT. That is Nigel Wayne Williams. He is from Point Fortin, actually.
okay.
So, yes. So I don't know if you are familiar with the show To the Point.
No, no, please give me some insight.
Okay, so I'm not sure if it's still running because I tend to be on and off of Facebook a lot. So at that point in time last year, I was looking at the show To the Point, and I saw he usually interviews persons from the Point Fortin area who have businesses, and so highlighting the successes of Point Fortin people. And I saw Nigel, and he happened to be a publisher. I reached out to him, and that is actually how the book came to fruition, because
Mm.
I would have tried. This book actually took me 8 years because I started writing some of the pieces when I was 24. I'm 32 now. And since probably at the age when I was about 24, 25, that is when I knew I wanted to write a book. I knew that I loved writing, but I tend to shy away from the public's eye. I like to not be seen. And he was actually within my price range because the first publisher that I would have reached out to, she is a person from St. Lucia, but she works with persons in the US, throughout the Caribbean, and Ghana, different places. And she would have charged, she wanted to charge somewhere around 20,000. And at that point in time, I was renting, I was going to school, and I was running my business physically. So to pay a rent for my apartment as well as the business and still be in school, that was a kind of reach for me. And having seen Nigel all these years after, I reached out to him and he was very affordable. And that is how we went forward with that. In terms of the challenges that I would have faced, mainly it would have been me getting out of that mindset of what would people think or who she feels she is, you know, those sorts of limiting beliefs and you know, your own fears, then working your way out of your own mind, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. Uh, I mean, sometimes I would see memes of pictures where sometimes, the fears that we think that we have, in fact, sometimes they're really non-existent and they just exist.
Exactly.
I, as I'm going through a bit of my research, and as I mentioned, some of the titles that you have, certified life coach, aspiring counselor, public servant,
Mm-hmm.
etc. When it is that this book came together, did any of the roles that you hold, did they sort of intersect with the writings that you did?
Yes, in terms of life coaching, in my introduction, I spoke about that the fact that we all have something to offer and overcoming limiting beliefs. And when I just started my practice as a life coach, I offered free webinars on overcoming limiting beliefs because that is something that I realized I'm not the only person struggling. And in as much as I would think about myself, there are other persons who, for me, I always write for myself first because I think when you live through something, it's easy for you to be relatable to other persons because when we think we are the only persons going through this, and you know, God may inspire us to do something, it's really our talents, I believe, are never really for us, it's for others, you know. And one of the things that intertwine is definitely the power of belief, having that positive self-talk and overcoming limiting beliefs. So I would say in that aspect, the life coaching and the counseling would come in there.
Fair enough, fair enough. And I can see how it is that, the skills that you'd have had, the background that you would have had, that they would have contributed to the work that you're doing. Um,
Definitely.
just still piggybacking off of the fact that you have these different skills and you find yourself doing these different roles. How do you balance, or how did you balance doing all these things, while getting this book put together? I understand that it didn't come together all at once, but I imagine that there would have come a time when it is that you would have been coordinating to get the prints done, and at the same time, have like, catering stuff to do, and at the same time
Yeah.
have to go to work. And it could be a lot. It could be a lot. I mean, any how did you overcome this?
It is a lot. It still continues to be a lot. But being a person who has multiple passions, sometimes, you know, we don't know what to focus on. So you find yourself doing a lot. And sometimes, you know, doing a lot of things can get you nowhere. So I had to decide what I wanted to focus on in this particular season. And I took a little, I think I took like 2 weeks or from work, I took a week and I really focused because I had the poetry there and I wanted to complete the narrative essays. So I took some time home and I really focused on completing the narrative essays. I would also say prioritizing, as well as every Sunday, what I tend to do, I would write down all the things that I need to do. I would make a schedule, and from that, then I would decide, okay, what is the most important towards my current goals and put that to the top of the list. So I know that I wanted to have the book launch on the 27th of July. I applied for vacation because being a public servant, in the service, you know, the job in itself is very demanding. And I knew that not that I couldn't pull it off being at work, but because at times when you think you have a day off and then you get called out to work, I had to ask for that vacation. Apart from that, I would say, you know, the support of my loved ones, those who closest to me, who know how much this book means to me. So, you know, certain things had to take a backseat in order to get this book on the forefront to meet deadlines. And I have to say, thank God for my husband as well. He's very understanding. So certain things, and even with us spending time with each other, sometimes it became him just being there when I'm writing and saying, you know, babe, how the song and what you think I should change here, and that type of thing. So support, prioritizing, having a schedule, prayer, that for me is what's helped me to get those things out of the way and actually seeing this book physically manifested.
Mrs. Mohammed, that is a lot, you know. I
It
mean,
is.
I mean,
Thank God I don't have any children yet.
I hear you. You're talking about yourself, but I, and it's something, and I just kind of hold to this belief sometimes that sometimes when it is that a person is undertaking a journey that it, and they achieve, you know, objectives, goals, successes, that sometimes it's not just they who are responsible for their own successes. Sometimes it's persons who are in their circles who help contribute to the success that they would have achieved. The person who might have, you know, brought a sandwich for you while it is that you were hungry and you're
Yes,
forgetting to eat, or you know,
exactly.
persons who's helping you edit, you know, while your work is getting done and you're
Mm-hmm.
discussing with your husband. Then I'm thinking to myself, I mean, I'm sure that you would have gotten through with it at some point in time, but if it is that you didn't have that support system, it would have been a lot more difficult.
Exactly. And that is why I believe that when I see people say that I'm a self-made this and a self-made that, that is something that I have to beg to differ because nobody is self-made because I could have written this book and it would have still been on my laptop had I not met Nigel, had I not seen that show, not have any support system. So I really do not believe that there's anyone that is self-made because even without you, you having a wider audience, I couldn't get myself out there or even have any book on Amazon or all these things because we all truly do need each other. There's nothing like a self-made man or woman.
And I agree with that. I agree with that. Community really is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And also there are a couple of things I took away from your previous statement. So one, it seems that you're a woman of faith, and
Yes,
faith also seems to be a central theme in your book.
it
How does
is.
faith influence your writing, and what role do you hope that it plays for your readers?
The role that faith plays for me, I would say that is definitely my foundation. Because as I said, a lot of the pieces that I wrote came from when I was at a low place in my life. And, sometimes for me, I didn't grow up in church. But, later on in my life, I always knew that there was a God. Some people would say the universe, a higher power, whatever, but I believe in Jesus Christ. And for me, in as much as I would try to run from that, when I find myself at my lowest point, he is the only person who I know that I could turn to, where I would find peace, where I would find um confirmation, where I would get my direction. And in terms of how this played a part in my writing, one of the pieces is called Silk and Satin Sheets. And I wrote that after a bitter breakup. And I found myself, at times, you don't know your worth. And you find yourself running into the arms of persons who you know are not good for yourself. And I could only write about my experiences and what worked for me. So in that piece, Silk and Satin Sheets, I explained everything, using parables, acronyms, all these things. And of course, I had to bring it back to where finding that peace in Christ is what got me out of that place of frustration or depression and understanding your worth. Even in the piece called Love and KFC, I that was a reflection of things that I saw going to school where young ladies, they would have relationships with taxi drivers and all these men could offer is a box of KFC in return for what, So all of that, as well as faith versus fear, that is something, a struggle that most of us have. And when sometimes our fears are louder than our faith, and we have to truly trust the process and understand that, as some people say, fear is just false, how they say it, something about evidence appearing real, something along that line.
Yeah, I know
But
the acronym that you're talking about. It just escapes me right now, but I'll remember.
yeah, so along that line, you have to allow your faith to be louder than your fear. And then I mentioned, this probably is what cognitive dissonance feels like, because we wondered how faith and fear could coexist, but they do coexist. They do work together, but it's up to you to allow your faith to be louder than your fears. So, always going back to my faith and what brought me peace in my lowest moments. So it's a big influence in my writing, especially in this particular book. So I hope that answers the question.
No, it most certainly does. And just to add to it, false evidence appearing real.
That is it.
I mean, hearing your account, it sounds like the book coming together isn't just a book coming together. It sounds more like a journey. You're going back to, at some low points in your life, and how it is that you were able to put pen to paper and, just get clarity where some of these situations are concerned. Um, as this is the case, as your book is really a compilation of items which detailed your journey, which detailed your growth. Is this one of the takeaways that you hope that readers have when it is that they go through your book?
Yes, I hope that they see whatever they choose to believe in. Like, my hope is not to try to convert anyone, but it can be applied to whatever your belief system is. And I just want persons to know that if I could overcome, they can overcome. Because I remember there was a point in my life where I would look at other persons and would be like, wow, this person is so amazing, or, they overcame this, or they were able to accomplish certain things. And I'm there wondering, when would my time come? And I had to remind myself that their journey isn't my journey. And I want others to know that my journey may not be your journey, but there are things that you can take away, things that you could learn. Because if we study successful persons, the Kobe Bryants, the Denzel Washington, they all have a point in their life that they were at their lowest lows. And they had to hold on to whatever source or whatever faith that they believed in to take them to the next level. Because sometimes we only see the spotlight. And I want persons, for me, I think we learn more in failures than we do in success. And my hope in writing and sharing, yes, it's poetry, yes, it's narrative essays, but my hope in writing this is to show persons that things aren't always going to be this way. They do get better. Keep pushing, keep pressing, and once you keep believing in yourself and you keep putting in the work, your time and your season will come.
Okay, well said. And having gone through this entire process, not just the writing, we also talking about the well, working with the publisher, etc. As you look back on it, is there anything that you think you would have done differently to get a more wholesome result? Like maybe I don't know, choose another design for the cover, or I don't know, have the book on the hand side on the picture instead of the left hand side of the picture, stuff like that.
Actually, I think, listener, the amount of that wasn't even the original cover that I had in mind.
Well, look, thing here.
I initially wanted like a mirror pic, like me looking within myself to go back with the name Soul Cry. And it just wasn't working out. And that photo that is on the cover of the book just happened to be one of the random photos we took that day, not even intending for that to be the cover. Then I didn't like how that one was looking. We scratched that and we tried to do some abstract art. I wasn't. And, I think all the wanting to change and everything happened within the time, because I really wanted to put out that book on the 27th of July. So I feel like everything happened the way it's supposed to. And going forward, I don't think I would do anything differently, but I would definitely just try to improve on my work, try to improve on my writing skills, and just hope that it would inspire who it has to inspire.
That is encouraging to know.
Thank you.
With Soul Cry being your debut novel, are there any plans for future writing projects, or maybe exploring any other creative outlets?
Oh, definitely. I'm actually working on my second book because I love cooking. I love baking. And so my second book will actually be a cookbook. And that will be in connection with my catering company. because eventually I would love to have my own line of seasoning, because sometimes when people taste my food, they're like, hey, what you put in this? And I am like, I cook it with love. So actually want to bring out a whole seasoning line called With Love. So that is going to go hand in hand with my cookbook. And I don't want to say the name yet because I don't want anybody to go with my name. But yeah, that is what I'm working on, as well as a book on self-love. I don't mind sharing the name for that. That is called First Love Yourself. And that will be a journey to a deeper understanding self-love, self-confidence, and self-worth, with a guided journal and affirmation cards. So the back work is being done. And I'm just trying to figure out how to copyright affirmation cards and to do it as a package. So that is in the works for next year, God's willing. But the work is being done now.
Okay. I mean, I was going to ask about your future projects, but I guess you just gave a little bit of insights on it.
Yeah.
And honestly, it sounds creative and encouraging. And the fact that, you're going into the realm of a cookbook, and who knows, I'm imagining, at some point in time, in your cookbook, there might be a poem in here and there,
You
you
never
know.
know.
You never know. You never know. I guess we have things to look forward to in 2025.
Yes.
Okay, well, we're about to wrap up the interview. But I just had one more question, and this is for persons who
Oh.
may be listening. And as you've detailed your journey in terms of the book coming together, in terms of publishing, as well as your experiences, do you have any words of encouragement for persons who, like yourself, might have to, um, for example, juggle multiple passions get work done, who may have to interact with persons who may not be entirely, favorable to get work done, who may have to, overcome the self-doubt that they may have, to get things done. Do you have any words of encouragement for any of these groups of persons who may be listening to this program right now?
For me, the number one thing, of course, is having faith in God. Definitely is the biggest thing for me. From there, a support system, you really do need the right people in your corner. And, having that discernment to know who is there for you for support and who is there to spectate. So you have to know who is genuinely in your corner, what to share, what not to share with those individuals. Have a vision, and definitely a vision will it will come to pass, but take some time and put that to paper. There was a study that was done that stated, I think your goals are, I believe, 90% more likely to be manifested if you put pen to paper. So for me, I am a vision board junkie. My whole family know vision board queen. I love vision boarding. So, having not just having the vision board, but having a structured plan as to how you're going to break it down into smaller goals. How are you going to break that down into daily plans, weekly plans, monthly plans, as well as measuring how your success in accomplishing those things are. Being patient with yourself. Don't compare yourself to anyone else, because you do not know the back end of that person's journey, and comparison is the greatest thief of joy. So try your best not to compare yourself to anyone. Know that your journey is unique, and the people that are assigned to you will find you. Your tribe will find you. Don't try to fit yourself in places you're not supposed to be. And, just trust the process. Focus on you. If you have to take the social media break, do whatever you have to do. But you see, definitely faith, having that support system, having a plan, staying focused. It's not going to be easy. It looks easy because sometimes you're just looking at the end result, but focus on the work that you have to put in. So that is the advice that I would give.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Deanna Cooper Mohammed, not Deanna Cooper Mohammed, Deanna Cooper Mohammed.
Yeah.
Get it right. Get it right. So, Dina, thank you very much for agreeing to be interviewed at this time. We look forward to 2025 and all the exciting projects that it sounds like you're coming up with. And don't be a stranger when it is that you come up with your literary works. Reach out to us because we're in the business of promoting authors of Caribbean heritage. So yeah, looking forward to all your works in 2025.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Okay, likewise, likewise. You take care.
You too.
You've been listening to TLC, Tropical Literature Creators. If you've heard something of interest or something you like, reach out to us. Reach out to our authors. Follow us on social media. We look forward to hearing from you.